Hello, and welcome to my Devil May Cry 3 Special Edition speedrunning guide. This guide will cover the Dante New Game Normal category, meaning beating the game on New Game as Dante on the normal difficulty. So it's kind of like any percent, except technically not. First, I will go through a bit of my FAQ on my pastebin as to the basic requirements and things about this run. There's already a tutorial of this run, however it is very outdated, which is why I wanted to make my own version. The PC version of this game is very bad, and most people will need the style switcher mod so that the game is actually playable at all. The style switcher mod fixes the frame rate issues and then the issues that the music files cause, which is mostly frame rate issues. So you can play the game at 60 FPS with music. It also fixes controller issues, and you can also change the resolution of the game and toggle between full screen and windowed. I use the style switcher 2.4.3, which is an older version than the 3 that is the final version of it. You can get the newer version 2, which is better in basically every way except one, and that is the inability to do the cutscene movement, which is on the PC version a basic glitch in the game, where you can in some specific in-game cutscenes move with the keyboard but not with a pad. And obviously if I can move a bit forward with the keyboard during those scenes, it's going to save time, and you cannot do that on the new style switcher because of the way that the installation works, but on the old one you can. The old one has slightly less stable frame rate, but it's not enough to make a big difference. You can download the style switcher 2.4.3 from the speedrun.com resource page for this game. So why run normal and not easy? Because from a fresh new game you cannot choose easy until you die 3 times. In any percent, when you start a new game, when there's no save file ever made that has gotten past mission 1, you cannot, or actually where you have not died 3 times, you cannot choose the difficulty when you start the game, and you will play on normal. But if you really want to be fast, you just start the game, die 3 times in mission 1, unlock easy, switch to that and beat the game. But frankly that is very boring and I don't like doing it, so this category is literally just new game, normal. It's simple. It's a lot more enjoyable as well. As for why the special edition is used over the base game, well, only PlayStation 2 has the vanilla version of the game, and the special edition has the turbo mode, which makes the game run 20% faster than the base game. And the special edition's normal difficulty is the same as the Japanese and European version's vanilla, but it's equivalent to the American version's easy. And the special edition also has the gold selection, which means that when you die you get to start from a specific point in the game, usually the room where you just died in. You just start from the beginning of the room, instead of like in the base game or in special edition. If you pick yellow selection, you have to start the entire mission from the beginning, and then when you pick up the gold orb, you get, when you die you can use it to resurrect yourself on the spot where you died. But on yellow selection you would just be I think it takes you to the previous room. So and also on the gold selection death abuses are possible, whereas obviously on the yellow selection you are forced to restart the whole mission, so you can't do those at all. The only downside about the special edition is the mandatory jester fight in mission 5, but There's pretty much nothing you can do about that, and the special edition is faster anyway. The PC version has the fastest loading times and the ability to move during certain in-game cutscenes. This is called the cutscene movement. So for example, you can mash attack when coming up the Mission 5 elevator to move yourself forward just a little bit. It may not seem like a big deal, but considering that it makes you run faster, and I've also been doing it for such a long time, I can't just not do it. And this is why you need to play the PC version. A Holy Water basically one-hit KOs any lesser demons, aka every normal enemy except the Queen Arachne, which is the big spider, and it does immense damage to any boss. You get 3 for free, which are optimally used for Mission 10 Spiders, Mission 16 Fallens, Mission 18 Chess Battle, and 5 more are bought to destroy Arkham. The weapons that are used in the run are obviously Rebellion, and from Mission 4 onwards, Cerberus, and from Mission 7 onwards you swap that for Agni Rudra, up to Mission 14, where you will swap to Beowulf, and you will always have Rebellion equipped. And from Mission 3 onwards you will also use the shotgun. At Mission 18 you can swap to the Kalina on if you feel like it, but I do not think that it's faster at all. It's just that it's easier to do the Agni Rudra refight with it than with the shotgun. The only upgrades that you get in the run are Stinger 2 at the start of Mission 3, 5 purple orbs at the start of Mission 8 and the 6th before Leviathan, and the last one at the start of Mission 11. There is technically only one glitch in this game, and it is the zip glitch, which happens when you time a gold release on an enemy attack and when you're on a slope. At least that's how I think it happens. And you can do it in Mission 9 in the subground water vein room, where you can basically just launch yourself across the room, saving about 14 seconds if you do it like first try. However, it is very luck based whether or not the Enigma will shoot an arrow that actually hits you there at the earliest possible time. So it's very easy to just stand there for like 30 seconds and not get it. So you're basically just wasting time, which is why I don't go for it. This game has dynamic difficulty, and you can tell, for example, when you go to fight Agni Rudra the first time, if you try to release their attacks to knock off their weapons, you have to do it 2 times before they, their weapons go flying. But if you die to them and you do the fight again, you will knock away their weapons with just 1 release. So the game basically gets a bit easier if you take a beating. However, obviously you're not supposed to take a beating, and it's just slower. But just so you know, that exists. The orb reward from missions is orbs that you collected in the mission plus rank bonus plus the boss bonus if there is a boss. The time, damage taken, and overall style affect the rank bonus as well. And in this paste bin you will also find things like the stinger slides that you can do in this run and where you can do them, the red orb ores and how many orbs you get from them optimally and which ones you should get, what or how Devil Trigger affects the orbs that you get from the orb ores. You also find the red orb cache locations and how much you get from them and which ones you want. Then some enemy and object orb drops, as well as some boss drops. And then there's the orb counts for how many you need per holy waters and purple orbs. There's also the damage optimizations as in what moves you should do to kill what enemies optimally. There is also the damage table that was pulled from the game by some Japanese people. Unfortunately, it's not very accurate, but it should give you an in-depth look at what damage moves do and what other properties they may have. And there's a link to it in the paste bin as well. And then there's the how many devil trigger stocks you need for explosions to one-hit what enemies, as well as some extra information like time comparisons between me and other runners, and then of course the general notes for the run. And I will try to go and explain what they really mean, because it is understandable that from just text it is very difficult to understand what needs to be done, which is exactly why this video is here. It is also important to note that if you have a save file where you have not beaten mission 1, then when you start a new run you have to pick new game, Dante, and then the gold selection, and then after that there will be no difficulty selection. And you obviously also don't have to pick the difficulty because you have not progressed to the point where you would have to pick it, as in you've died 3 times to unlock easy, and then because you haven't done that you don't need to pick difficulty, the normal difficulty, again in the difficulty selection menu, so you save about a second. In the long run that is a good thing. So basically just delete your old file if you have any, start the game, set your preferred controller settings, put turbo on, start new game, and save in mission 1. Do not beat mission 1 or do not die 3 times and save. And that's how you get the save file. Unfortunately, if you get past mission 1, then if the run dies after that, then you have to just copy over your backup save, because otherwise the game will prompt you to pick the difficulty again. In this part I will show you the basics of the game and the run itself, so that you will have a grasp on how to, do stuff in general in the run. So first off, you can obviously move the character, you can move the camera. If you press R3, the camera will reset behind Dante's back, but as you can see, it's not very good in many places. You just have to learn when to use it, if you are going to use it. Then you get the jump, and there's 2 heights of it. So there's the short hop, for which you need to lightly tap the jump button, and it's very easy to get the long jump when you don't want it. Then you got the melee, obviously. You got the guns and the style. And then you got the shoulder buttons. Lock on allows you to strafe like this, and obviously lock on to enemies. If you press L3 during lock on, it will change targets. And you should be aware of the lock-on system being kind of iffy. You can many times lock on to enemies that are way further away from you than the ones that are right in front of you, for whatever reason. So you can try to prevent that by putting the stick into the direction of the enemy that you want to lock on to, and then lock on. Then you got the devil trigger, and you can switch devil arms and the guns, and of course the taunt.
Come on, wimp.
The taunt gives you an increase in style. I don't know exactly how much. You can just follow the style meter or the stylish rank meter, and it also gives you 1.5 stocks of devil trigger when you get it in mission 8. And there's a cooldown on the taunt. I think it's about 5 seconds. For example, when you taunt an enemy for the first time and then wait until the meter goes down, then you can taunt again. Then you got the combo 1 and combo 2, and the crazy combo, which is combo 2 second attack cancelled into mashing, and the level of mashing required to get the million stab out is related to the stylish rank. So depending on how high it is, the easier it is to get it. But since you'll mostly be using it at the start to, you know, get up the stylish rank quickly, and it also goes up quicker the more enemies you hit with it. So you need to mash quite a bit. You can obviously sometimes just use 2 index fingers, for example, to easily get it out, but you know, it restricts your movement a bit. Then you got the high time, of which there are 2 versions. This one is mostly not used. You just use this one to basically finish a combo on a Lust, for example, and then come down with a Helmbreaker. As far as I know, Helmbreaker's height does not make any difference on the damage, like apparently it does in DMC4. And then you got the Stinger, which you will get optimally level 2 at the start of mission 3, and for that you need to get S ranks on both missions 1 and 2. Of course, at the start of the run you don't, or when you're starting out, you don't need to worry about getting that. Just get Stinger 1, and then you can get Stinger 2 after you break the first orb ore in mission 3. And then let's talk about some cancelling, because that is a very major part of this run. So anybody can tell that this animation is very long by itself, but pretty much anybody who ever plays this game will figure out that you can just cancel out of it by moving. It's not a eureka moment, it just comes naturally. Then you realize you can cancel it into other moves, and this can be good. For example, if you need to spam combo 1, it's basically an infinite combo. But oftentimes, since the last hit of combo 1 gives knockback to enemies, same as Helmbreaker, and high time gives like vertical knockback. So if there's no wall nearby, like for example here, if you're comboing enemies in the middle, they're gonna get knocked away, and that's gonna lose you time because you're going to have to go after them. Of course, when you have Stinger, it's a bit easier, but generally you want enemies to be to have their back against the wall, so they get sandwiched there, optimally against doors, so that you get the hand to come out of the door, so you can potentially just parry the door and then get a release, or just gold release through the door. So basically you can, with a Royalguard, which is the crux of this run, you can cancel almost any kind of animation, and there's quite a big window for cancelling. Like you can cancel very early or very late. Obviously you want to cancel as early as possible. Can't think of any example where you wouldn't. This is something that, you know, comes with practice. And that's just, you need to basically get friendly with the style button. And you can also do this with the guns. For example, when you want to destroy a Wrath, you shoot it, I think it's 9 times, and then on the 10th you shoot and guard. You have to be pretty quick. Then you will guard the explosion and get, I think it's full level 1 Royalguard. As you can see right now, I have 1 full orb and the second one is about to fill. The flashing orb does not mean that it's halfway. It could mean it, but I've noticed that since the attacks in this game give different amounts of, I guess the rage is the correct term, but I just say guard, then you cannot tell always whether you have like 1.5 or 1.25 or 1.75 because, you know, having the same amount visually does not mean that it's going to do the same amount of damage. So you can cancel with it really nicely. Stinger cancelling is especially important. You can cancel the ending frames of Stinger. This is how you move fast. You have to just get used to this as well. With the shotgun, normally you can just, you know, do this, but it is very slow. You can also cancel the guns into each other, which is a form of gun cancelling, but it's very slow as well. So you just cancel it with the Royalguard. You can basically only do this on the ground though, and you don't really cancel anything in the air either, because you're going to come down instantly. Well, except for jump cancelling, of course. So with the Royalguard, the easiest way to parry enemies, which many people probably think that you just have to time it right, and you do have to time it. However, there's basically an easy way to guard like any attack in the game. So any attack that comes at you, you just roll and then guard right when the move hits. This is very useful for example, Nevin's spinning attack, which hits 4 times at the beginning. So to time the first hit, and even though I can do it without it, I'm just so used to using the roll guarding, so I do it every time. So it's like that. Same for anything like Beowulf's explosion, etc. You can also guard in the air after you get Royalguard level 2, which would be at Agni Rudra. You also get the air release, and the release is done by locking on, or just holding lock on, and pressing the left stick forward and pressing the style button. You can do this by just, you know, holding the stick forward and pressing to time it, or you can tilt the stick forward and press the button, or just do it raw when an enemy is attacking you from the back when you're doing some combos. You can just either parry it or just cancel out of the combo, turn, and then do the whole thing. It takes a lot of practice to get the timing down, and basically there's 3 timing tiers. There's the, I would say, the bronze release, which is basically when you release on an attack, but you take chip damage, so you didn't release properly, and as far as I know, it just does the normal amount of damage that it would do if you just do it like this on an enemy. The second one is silver, which I think in most cases it gives you the same animation as gold release. It might not take you as far, but it definitely does not give as much damage. I don't actually remember if it gives you chip damage or not, but what you want is the gold release, and that is a perfectly timed release. I don't know the frame window exactly. I've been told that it's like 4 frames, but I feel like it's a bit less, like maybe 3 or 2. But that makes you completely invulnerable to any damage during it, and it does a ton of damage in itself. And even at level 1, it does a lot of damage, and you'll be abusing it anytime an enemy attacks you, like conveniently, especially if there's other enemies around that you can get into the attack. The gold release has kind of a huge hitbox. It goes like about this much if you get the gold release, and I think it hits like around this big of an area. Sometimes enemies can be right next to it and then just they avoid it somehow. Obviously if they jump away or dash away, they can avoid it. And you need the gold release on many parts. For example, you want to do it on the Vanguard in Mission 2. The Leviathan 1 cycle requires it. Actually, you probably need to do it twice there. Then there's the Beowulf, which is like the most important part, or the most important gold release. And of course mission 1 and 2, especially mission 1, has a bunch of them, which makes the mission significantly faster. I was getting about 120, 118 times, and I thought that was pretty good. And then eventually, when I perfected mission 1, I started getting like 110s, and now the time that I have is 105, like a very low 105. But that does have despawns. Oh, and despawns happen when you basically occupy the same hitbox as an enemy. It doesn't really have to be that way, because you can despawn the Vanguard by literally being this far away from him when he is at the spawning spot. I've never had that happen. However, there's many enemies that can regularly be despawned, but the timing for the attack, I believe you have to attack to make them despawn, is like very peculiar, and you know, I'm not gonna reset if I don't get them. I mean, I might lose over 5 seconds on mission 1 just because I don't get those, but I can still get a 108 or 109 without the despawns by just getting the perfect releases and pretty good luck on the positionings of the enemies. So yeah, when you roll guard like this, you can easily guard like any attack in the game. Of course, if you mistime this, like if you roll too or guard too late, you get hit, or guard too early, you won't get the parry. And you can also guard in the air after you get the level 2. And this is very easy way as well to guard. However, if there's a group of enemies around you, it's better to roll guard, I would say. But for example, some attacks like Beowulf's Vipes, you might want to just neutral jump and guard. So first of all, you get iframes from the jumps, and you get extended iframes from the Royalguard. Same with the roll. I'm not sure which one has more. I think the jump might have more. But anyways, just remember you can do that. The air rail is used on mostly just the second fight of Agni and Rudra, where they jump at you and you parry the first hit, and then you release through the second and you hit both of them. Yeah, assuming you get a gold release. And the jumping also helps with the gold release in the air, especially on well, you have to do it on Beowulf. And since you fight Beowulf twice in the run, you have to do it 2 times. Then we got, obviously, since you can cancel with Royalguard or just without it, there's switch canceling, which is when you do one attack with one devil arm and then switch to the second and do another, and repeat. Like so. The timing is a bit different with Cerberus and Rebellion than Agni, Rudra and Rebellion, Beowulf and Rebellion, because those are the combinations you will be using. You only use Cerberus for missions 4, 5, and, well, you don't use it in 6, but you can already swap out to Agni and Rudra if you want, but I've swapped out at mission 7. And then that has it's a bit faster to attack with those, it does more damage as well. So the trick to this is just a steady rhythm. And I would say for a pad player like me, another one is something that just comes naturally to me, which is doing a kind of rolling motion. I don't know what else to call it, but basically thumb on square, which is my melee, middle finger on my R2, and then my R2 I kind of, or actually I do a kind of a circular motion with my middle finger, because if I try to do just press down like stiffly, it feels very bad. It's unnatural, and I've been doing the rolling motion like subconsciously for a long time. I could not even do it in the regular way, and there's no point in doing that because it's much easier to do what I do. And you can do it a bit slower, but there's a limit to how slow you can do, otherwise it becomes like this. And there's a limit to how fast you can do it, otherwise that happens. So it's not, you know, mashing the attack button and then cancelling like I first thought. It's just a steady rhythm. 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. And then you got Devil Trigger. So you just activate it, you run really fast, and you want to run with Rebellion equipped, because Rebellion runs at, I think it's a 5% increased in speed. Cerberus is the fastest, but since you don't use Cerberus when you have Devil Trigger, there's no point. Agni, Rudra and Beowulf are slower than Rebellion, so that's why you want to have Rebellion equipped when you run with Devil Trigger. It's a minor thing, but just so you know. And then you got the Devil Trigger explosion, which is when you hold down Devil Trigger, and then you will start, I think it's about 3 seconds when you start holding down it. It starts charging the rightmost 7 stocks, and then the leftmost are the base stocks, and you cannot charge them. And obviously the first thing you do when you get to mission 8 is you buy 5 purple orbs, and then before Leviathan you buy the 6th, and in the final 7th you will buy optimally at the start of mission 11. Then about this, so when you taunt you get about 1.5 stocks of Devil Trigger, so I've been doing a lot of optimization as to when to taunt so you get the maximum use out of Devil Trigger, and how much Devil Trigger to use for the explosion, which is just shortened to DTE, for whatever enemies, so you can one-hit kill them or get them close enough without, you know, wasting it. And so let's see, actually it's about 2 seconds the holding time, and then you see the orbs start fire up or charge up as red, and I count this as 2 stocks right now. This is a 2 stock DT because it's much easier to count like this instead of counting 2 and then plus the 3 base stocks. So it's easy to remember that, for example, 2 stocks will one-hit kill envies, which only appear in mission 8. 4 stocks one-hit pawns and lusts, and obviously prides because they are weaker than that. And then you need 5 stocks for the knights and bishops, and full stock you need for the abyss, and I think I'm not exactly sure if it one-hit kills the fallens, but you probably won't even use it on them. And a good thing to know is that if you hold the Devil Trigger explosion, press start and let go of it, this will make it so that you cannot charge it for about an additional 3 seconds, or maybe even more, like 4. So it takes 4 seconds before it starts charging up. You can obviously use this if you accidentally start charging it for example the Beowulf boss fight, because Beowulf takes much less damage and Geryon from the DTE, so you basically just waste a meter there instead of using it to activate it. And it's also a pretty bad mistake for the lady boss fight if you start holding it in the beginning, because you need it to run to her and do damage to her. Also, the Devil Trigger increases your attack damage and speed, and the speed and I would say the moving speed is the most important. Also, in some places you can only do a stinger slide, which is when you stinger off a ledge and you get this sliding animation. You can also do it with Trickster's Dash, but you can also only do the stinger slide in some places. For example, the stairs in Mission 9 Subground Water Vein, if you have Devil Trigger. There's actually 3 places there where you can only do it with Devil Trigger, as far as I know. There's some places where doing it even with Devil Trigger is extremely difficult. It's just like, I've only gotten it once. I've just noted it down that I got it, and then after that I've never gotten it again, even like after trying to practice it. So here I am going to demonstrate the basics of jump cancelling and the use of Devil Trigger and Devil Trigger Explosion, as well as the parry and the release of the Royalguard. So the basics of jump cancelling is that you jump on an enemy and then do an aerial and cancel that aerial with a jump, because the game treats the tops or certain parts of enemies as ground, so you can just constantly cancel out of them with the jumps. And with Agnid Rudra's aerial cross, which does 200 damage per hit, or this is what I think it does. It's either that or the damage or the HP that is listed in the DMC3 damage table, which is in the description, is false for some enemies, for example the greeds that will be here. And obviously you can do this with basically any aerial. However, the Helmbreaker isn't as powerful as aerial cross, and it's not as fast, and it's also more difficult to jump cancel. You can do it with Cerberus as well, but Cerberus aerial attack does very little damage. Later on in the run you will use Beowulf to jump cancel, and it does the same amount of damage as Agnid Rudra. However, it does not create knockback on enemies, so you can use it for any enemy in the game, and not just greeds, which are like stationary the whole time, or like envies that don't really get knocked back or knocked on the ground. So here it goes. So as you can see, I can just jump on these guys. Unfortunately I have air hike right now, which makes it a bit more difficult to get these. So when you just, let's get rid of these guys. Just go behind them. Jump, attack, jump, attack, jump, attack. Here's a parry. Here's another. Oh, well, never mind. There's a release. That's a regular parry. That's a Royalguard. Can I get a... I want to get an aerial guard. But as you can see, since the jump has iframes, it's very easy to just whiff it. And you can do a very slow jump cancelling by just jumping, attacking. It might be better at the beginning, even though I don't think it's any easier than just doing it like doing it fast like that. And as you can see here, well, basically the aerial cross will knock away enemies that are not greeds or spiders, so which is why you don't really want to use it. You'd rather use switch cancelling, which you can do faster with this pair of weapons than with Rebellion and Cerberus. But it also has its rhythm and the limit on how fast you can do it. And here I'm just going to show you the first spider fight. Just switch cancelling, using Devil Trigger Explosion, using releases. Trying to parry. For the spiders especially, you want to use the switch cancel, because you know they run away so easily, and you know jump cancelling is very difficult on them. Oh, that was pretty sick. Here I will show you jump cancelling with Beowulf, as well as the DT a bit. This place is very important. Oh, missed. Oh. As you can see, it's very simple to jump cancel with that. And here's a nicely timed 4-stock Devil Trigger explosion, which kills all the pawns instantly. And doesn't waste any meter for me. And you can also taunt after enemies die, just slightly after, and you can still get meter from it. So both style and Devil Trigger, which is good. Also, if you get the spiral in mission 9, or 10, I guess as well, you can use it to clear out soul eaters by just showing your back to them and then targeting and shooting. And you can also cancel this gun with Royalguard easily. And you can basically spam that and get like a triple S combo easily. I don't know why, but it works. And it's also good for Geryon if you're afraid of the stomps, and Beowulf. Basically anything, but you know, this is slower than not using it, unfortunately. And there's of course since there's the reverse stinger, there's the reverse release, which is kind of wonky, and you can just get a gold release, for example, that goes forward even though an enemy attacks you from the back, which is the attack that you release through. And this pretty much only happens when there's enemies around you and you're just locking on to something else and doing the release, and you can still, if you time it right, get the gold release. It just goes in a different direction. For example, the Leviathan 1 cycle would very much like it if you got the gold release on the orb or the heart, the core. When the enemies are coming at you, you're just switch cancelling the core, and then they attack you from behind. Then you just time the release forward, you know, instead of going backwards, which goes away from the core, where you will probably miss the attack on the core. Instead, just killing the enemies, and also if you release Devil Trigger explosion at that moment, you will whiff it as well. So that's why it's important. But you can just lock on to the core there and then release when the attacks come, and you can still get it. Here I am showing you the riding or surfing mechanic of the game, where if you knock down certain enemies with something like Stinger, Shotgun or High Time, and then jump on top of them, you can then ride them. And if you ride them against the wall, the ride will get cut short. If you don't press any buttons while riding them and not touching a wall, it's about medium length. But if you do that and use spam Ebony and Ivory at the, close to the end of the ride, you can extend it a lot more. And you should not use Shotgun whilst riding, because it will just stop the ride. On the initial knockdown, spam Ebony and Ivory a bit, because this will make them fall down quicker, so you don't have to wait until they are rideable. And in the worst case scenario, if they try to get up, you can still manage to get on top of them sometimes. But yeah, you're gonna need to do this a lot.